Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Touhouvania, or Koumajou Densetsu Scarlet Symphony, whatever you want to call it. So we're in another stage, but, things get pretty hard in this game, so be prepared for a few more deaths during the boss fights.
I forget, is the hovering limited? Can you only stay in the air?
Nope, you can fly as long as you want.
So
You cannot use your whip while flying. You can only use your P-shot or specials.
You basically enter in Touhou mode, while in midair, essentially. And I'm wondering about that, because I don't play Touhou at all, but considering this game lets you do that, is it possible to play this entire thing as a Touhou shoot 'em up?
I mean, you can if you want to. I don't know why you would.
A challenge run, I would assume. Or if you really don't jive with 2D Castlevania gameplay, which is fair, but I have to wonder, why do you even buy this? If not,
because you're an obsessive Touhou fan and must have everything with Touhou characters in it?
Nah, you see, that's unhealthy. Why don't you just be like me, have 30 plus copies of a game starring a blue rat? I mean, everybody, on that note though, because I think we all have that one friend, or hell, you might be that person in question. It's you're an absolute huge mega fan of a particular franchise, and you have to have everything related to that franchise, no matter what it might be, any media form.
I don't know about franchise as a whole, but I do have entirely too many copies of Fallout New Vegas. That was mostly as a matter of coincidence. I originally got the game on Xbox, but then I got it on PC so that I could use the unofficial patch. So I got it on Steam to do that. And then Epic eventually did a free giveaway of the game, and GOG eventually did a free giveaway of the game. So now I have Fallout New Vegas on all digital platforms, and then I found a copy of it in the bargain bin at Family Dollar, of all places, for the Xbox, and decided to get that because I didn't have my old Xbox copy anymore. So I bought entirely too many copies of Fallout New Vegas and given my money to Bethesda for a game Obsidian made far too many times. And somehow managed to outdo that by getting the game for free twice as well.
They really want to get rid of their damn copies, digital or otherwise.
I forgot this game had a life system.
You can set it to 20 if you want. So.
Oh yeah, it's just when I think when I see this particular style of play, I think Symphony of the Night, even though this is a hell of a lot more linear. And Symphony of the Night is one of those, if you die, you just have to reload your save kind of games. Okay. I'm looking at the enemy types, and I'm like, so there's something wrong about this. This is not Castlevania. And then I'm like, oh, it's anime girls. It's all anime girls, except for the hooded guy in the cloak.
Who is probably an anime girl underneath.
Probably. I'm just like, hey, one of these things is not like the others.
Hi, Alice. Miss, to steal her precious thing.
I realized that part of the reason it's like that in this case is because this was a cheap freebie fan-made kind of game, and asking for an English dub would just be silly. But every time I see this kind of static visual novel cutscenage with Japanese voice acting going on behind an English dub, it just reminds me of all the companies that do that shit and don't pay for dubs because they figure the people who actually want to play this kind of game don't give a shit.
Which I think is a fair assessment. I think most don't.
Well, if it's something like Senran Kagura or some shit that's just cheesecake for days, then yeah. But if it's something like Atelier Ryza the only reason they gave up on dubs is because the games weren't selling well over here. So basically the Yakuza reason, except without the fun coincidence of playing the game with Japanese and subtitles on, making it feel like a Japanese movie.
Yeah.
Is like, you know. But like, I want to, like, I instinctively want to complain about it, except this is the one case where I can't complain about it because, you know,
damn, my powers are useless here.
It's like there are just quite a few games that I would like to be able to get like immersed in that should have dubs but don't. You know, there's the aforementioned Atelier games which stopped doing dubs in their more recent entries because, well, unironic small indie developer Gust can't really afford to do that. But of course, the moment they stop doing that is the moment the series takes off. So, irony. The Sword Art Online games do the same thing too, which is fucking weird because, like, one of the only good things about the Sword Art Online anime is its fucking amazing English dub. So, yeah. Oh. They got that peculiar sort of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, just moving certain sprites around instead of animating them vibe going on with these guillotines.
I mean, that's fine. Like, I don't need everything to be overly elaborately animated.
Oh yeah, I know. It's just like that was always like a weird graphical decision, I thought, in Symphony of the Night, where some sprite animations weren't actually sprite animations; they were just a static sprite moving around.
Yeah, well, because it was likely taken from like Rondo of Blood. It's like, yeah, we're just gonna rip this whole cell and put it here.
Yeah.
Are the skeletons anime girls too?
They were anime girls, probably.
I mean, like, I'm pretty sure the only way you would be able to tell the gender of a straight-up skeleton is if you very meticulously measured its pelvic bone and, like, against the rest of the body. But, like, that's the only thing I can think of that would be, like, dimorphic in the skeleton.
78 inches. Definitely an anime girl.
I mean, you don't know that. Could have just been Big Bone.
No, I don't.
Could have just been Big Bone. Could have been Squall Leonhardt.
That's Leon.
I remember back in the day, like in the early days of internet forums, like this was that awkward period where it was like an active war between people who loved Final Fantasy and people who thought it was for weebs, because that was.
I mean, it is, but isn't that?
Well, yeah,
part of the appeal?
but like it was considered like a really scathing criticism of anything by certain circles on the internet back in the day, right? If it was anime, then it wasn't for real men, and you should be playing brown games about military shooters and stuff. You know, instead of playing another fantasy game set in another boring medieval universe, you should be playing another shooter game set in another boring military universe.
You know, we don't talk about enough World War II.
But like, you know, I remember multiple forum posts in the old message boards that probably don't exist anymore outside of the Wayback Machine, where someone would put up just a static image of Squall Leonhardt's CGI model, and they'd be like, "Look at his hips. He's so androgynous. This isn't manly. He's got woman hips." And I'm just like, they just look like human hips to me. I don't see what you see. Help.
Why aren't you angry?
Man.
It's like, if you want to get back and talk about actual problems, you know, bring up the junction system, bring up triple triad, but the hips, come on.
Yeah, I'm talking about like around the time it was super popular to do 1 million rant videos about Twilight. This was pretty early. Okay, so hey.
I don't know. I kind of go. I know it's like boomer mentality, but I kind of wish we were back in the days where everyone just rant about stupid shit, because now it seems to be all like drama video essays.
Wasn't that just what the ranting community was?
Yeah, but it was considerably lower effort at indie.
Well, yeah, they weren't getting paid for it. No, you know what? I'll dispute the lower effort part. I mean, there were some channels that were basically just rant vlogs, but there were also channels that did like that very specifically edited their videos in a certain style to give themselves an identity. So, like, I mean, nowadays people just hire editors off Fiverr to do that shit for them. So, yeah. And it wasn't quite so much about getting as many small videos as you can out at a time, you know?
But that's not how the algorithm worked back then either. I don't think in the day you were as punished for not going against the grain. Well, going against the grain, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, but like the other thing is like when a drama YouTube channel does a video on whoever's been doing whatever alleged bad thing this week, they don't just stop at doing one video on the topic. They do 20 videos repeating what the other channel that did 20 videos on it has been saying. And then when you criticize them for being a low-effort fucking genre of YouTube video, they get on their high horse and talk about how it's a form of investigative journalism. Please stop.
Not saying that can't exist. It's just that more often than not, that's not what's happening here.
Yeah. It's like, you know, I'm just really cynical about it. So
yeah, I understand.
God damn those frickin' Sharpie marker emotes. They keep distracting me every time they pop up on screen. Also, this little girl has giant demon horns, and it's really distracting.
I remember this girl specifically because, if I recall correctly, in her boss fight, she grows to a larger size, but the sprite doesn't change, so it looks pretty fucking bad blown up.
And we get to see that with the frickin' blurry pixel filter. Great.
Yeah. So she's just gonna be a fucking Mosiak. like it's a very interpretive art.
So does this remaster have like a sharp pixel option?
I have no idea.
I hate those blurry emulator pixels. I'm sorry. It doesn't work.
Bilinear filtering, I think, is probably the proper term.
I think that's the term, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I recognize them most from like the old SNES filters.
Well, do you guys what's your preference when it comes to pixel-based games? Do you like sharp as clean as possible?
Sharp.
Or do you prefer a filter? You prefer
Yes,
sharp. Okay.
I prefer sharp. I also never use CRT filters because all the CRT filters are awful.
Yeah.
I think the only time in recent memory that I've encountered a game with, oh Jesus, it's even worse than I imagined.
Avert your eyes, children.
I think the only time I've encountered a CRT filter that I actually liked in recent memory was Lunistis.
Yeah, that one was pretty nice.
Yeah, that game has like a high res mode or a PlayStation 1-esque low res mode for displaying its PS1 graphics, and they both look great.
Yeah, I was gonna say what's really good is that both look good.
Yeah,
I prefer the PS1 look because it's my jam. But the cleaner version also looks really good because of the art style.
Yeah, and you throw the game CRT filter isn't just a bunch of scan lines either. It also like gives the screen a sort of curved CRT television look. which I appreciate. I think Yooka-Laylee did something similar for its little N64 levels. Or its N64 graphic filter, whatever it was. It's been years since I bothered to play Yooka-Laylee.
I've never played it because there's no interest outside because I didn't play Banjo because anyway.
It's an okay game. People are just mean about it. The it's like it's a little rough around the edges, and it also just like captures faithfully all the ups and downs of the genre, except the levels are even bigger, so the downs are a little bit more obvious. But otherwise, it's okay. It's not as like consistently good as the 2D Yooka-Laylee sequel. That's basically Donkey Kong Country, but
Took a few tries, but I got her.
yeah, that just looked like a clusterfuck to me. But I don't have like bullet hell reflexes ingrained from actually playing the goddamn genre.
Even then,
Well, gotta remember that your hitbox is smaller than you think it is.
Yeah,
what I was getting into is this is simultaneously a Toho game and not, so it's not as easy to get into that bullet hell mentality because of the foundation of the game being different.
Well, you're also like going back and forth between being in the air and being on the ground, and that means the actual maneuvering you have to do to avoid shit is always going to be different depending on your situation.
I would argue that boss is probably easier if you approach it like a Toho boss. Because she's in midair for the entire battle.
Might be. Oh, are we grinding for the Chrysogrim now?
No, this is the actual library, not the reverse library.
Oh.
You see, one's upside down.
Totally different.
Oh, I hate that place.
I like how some of these enemies can continue to shoot their projectiles even in the moments after death. Because that's just how the attacks are programmed to go off.
Yeah, like it's like there's a kill switch
Well,
for projectiles or anything like that.
Yeah, it's like the projectile attack separates from the enemy slightly before it fires off, so it gets to fire off after the enemy disappears.
Like as soon as it's on the screen, that's it.
Yeah. Whew. You know, given the whole anime girl aesthetic thing, if the currency were actually hearts that came out of candles, it would make an odd amount of sense in this version of Castlevania that it doesn't make in actual Castlevania.
Nope, it's just red orbs.
Are you talking about just like the aesthetic of like the anime aesthetic and like magical girl and all that sort of thing? Like the hearts would make more sense.
Yeah, the hearts would definitely make more sense in anime girl Castlevania than they do in actual Castlevania. In actual Castlevania, they're just a holdover because it's something the 8-bit games did, and you know.
Well, even then, why did the 8-bit games make it hearts? It was like, why is it a generic heart, and why is it ammunition for your weapons?
I'll like that part was weird, yeah, but I'll at least give them some slack for deciding on something simple like a heart, because 8-bit games can only really do simple graphics well. You try to do anything complicated, and it just ends up looking visually muddy. But like by the time Symphony of the Night and the other Metroidvania games happened, it's just like, why are we doing this? I don't get it. And you know, I guess at some point Konami realized that, because when you get into like the 3D PS2 games, Lament of Innocence and stuff, they try to alter the heart into some sort of gemstone thing, and it looks actually kind of cool. It took me a few seconds to realize that those were heart-shaped gemstones.
Well, no, that just it may have been intentional or not, but that could have been a callback to Castlevania Bloodlines, the Genesis game, because Genesis Bloodlines was the first game to make the heart ammunition crystals.
Oh, was it? Oh yeah,
Instead,
now that I'm remembering, yeah.
But then after that, they went back to hearts. It's like, focus test don't like this.
Yeah.
They wanted to do hearts.
Castlevania Bloodlines was an odd entry in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I recommend it, though. It's a little antiquated by virtue of it having an actual limitation on your continues, when normally Castlevania just gives you unlimited continues. And it's one of those games where you need to beat it on the hardest mode to get the actual ending.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a good game.
The Adventure Rebirth did the same goddamn thing. You couldn't fight the final boss unless you were on hard mode.
Yeah, going for that classic Konami mentality, I guess. Just because you get to the end, Dracula says, you're not a true ninja.
Oh, yeah.
Then the credits just show up.
The WiiWare Rebirth games were all about that classic Konami mentality. There was a Contra one, I think.
There was a Contra Rebirth, Gradius Rebirth, and Castlevania.
Yeah.
And they were good.
Yeah.
I don't think they did very well, though, to continue it as a series, which is a shame. You know, and now they're also lost forever because they're attached to a story that's no longer.
You can
active.
easily emulate them on Dolphin, but
Yes, you can.
Like,
you can.
even
They're
more-
just talking, like, officially, they're lost forever.
yeah. So
Until they get re-released.
I wish they would re-release them. They were good games.
Yeah, there's like Konami Rebirth, like anthology, just all 3 games in one collection.
The only questionable thing about Castlevania: The Adventure Rebirth was the graphical style, which was like not quite Castlevania.
It was a hodgepodge of 4 and Bloodlines. That's how I looked at it.
Except it didn't really manage to capture the spirit of either.
No. Oh, okay, you know what? Actually, not so much 4 and Bloodlines, 4 and the Arcade Haunted Castle.
Maybe. Or then why would you emulate the arcade haunted castle in any
the
respect?
I mean, okay, I was going to say the art style wasn't the problem, but then I remember some of the levels was like, I can't see shit.
Well, that was never a problem in the Adventure Rebirth. If anything, the graphical style looked a bit too cartoony and simple for Castlevania. Like, even the 8-bit games had more of an atmosphere to them than the Adventure Rebirth did.
Yeah.
So... And I realized the Adventure Rebirth was essentially a remake of a Game Boy game, but still.
How the hell do you pronounce her name? Petruli?
Yeah, Petuli. She's a very difficult boss.
Oh, well, I mean, what is she, like a librarian?
Yeah.
Every time you die in this game, I expect to see like the blood spatter from Symphony.
Rondo of Blood.
Symphony of the Night did it too, where
Yeah.
you'd blood spatter into a skeleton as you died.
Well, no, you just fade into blood.
I
Yeah,
might be-
Rondo of Blood did the same thing too. I don't think you might be thinking of Ghosts and Goblins, where you just become a skeleton when you die.
I might be thinking of that, except I've never played it. I'm not a frickin' masochist.
Say it.
The only like Ghosts and Goblins adjacent game I've ever played was the Maximo series.
If you could play one, if you're at all curious,
No.
Super Ghouls and Ghosts on the Super Nintendo.
No.
You say that now, but 30 years from
Look.
now, you gotta say, "Damn, I should have
Look.
listened to John."
Look, Maximo is already pushing my upper limit of unfair difficulty. All right.
Damn, and I hear Maximo is easier than Ghosts and Goblins, so what the hell?
Maximo 2 is easier than Ghosts and Goblins. Maximo 1 is... It's hard to compare the difficulty, like, directly, because it's difficult in a different way from Ghosts and Goblins. You know? Like, they're clearly going for the same kind of challenge, but when you're moving around in 3D, it's like, you know... it's not as... the kind of stuff you need to do to avoid damage is different. And it's easier to... it's more fair. In that, like, most of what the game expects of you is something that you could reasonably be expected to do on your first try if you have reflexes enough. Which, from what I've seen and what little I did play back in the day, was never really true of Ghosts and Goblins.